Welcome back to Act on Mental Health. This is a channel that's dedicated to those that are learning acceptance and commitment therapy. So if you're a new therapist or you're somebody that's wanting to incorporate ACT into your practice, this is a good channel for you. Communication is perhaps the most highly sought after skill that couples come to a therapist to help with. And what may seem basic to natural conversations that we have, or for great communicators even, couples find themselves at an impasse, unable to get through to one another. And so they need some intervention and some help from a therapist. And that's okay. Couples, either whether they're in crisis or whether they just need some enrichment, sometimes that therapist can help get them unblocked and moving forward. Now, usually there's something that was said that cannot be unsaid, or maybe there's something that was unsaid that goes without saying. Perhaps an affair that's lurking around the corner, but more likely it's something more benign that needs to be addressed, such as bottled up anger that explodes over something trivial, or domineering over another partner, and the old anxious avoidance cycle where one pursues while the other flees. Couples therapy is a terrific avenue to explore these issues and bring them out in the open to examine and then intervene using some communication skills. While this episode is not meant to replace couples therapy, there are some communication tips that ACT can help couples find breakthrough with, and they're worth sharing in this video. Now, we'll be using ACT with Love by Russ Harris, so if you have that as a companion resource, great. I've also included a lot of downloadable links in the description below, so make sure you check those out. Today, we're going to look at what good communication looks like, the importance of assertiveness in relationships, and the art of negotiating where we can find win-win solutions. Effective communication is the backbone to any healthy relationship. It involves not only speaking, but also listening and understanding the other's perspective. So let's explore some fundamental principles that Russ Harris lays out in his book, Act with Love. These are the 7 principles of good communication. The first is to be present. Being fully present means giving your partner your undivided attention, looking directly at them, noticing their facial expressions and body language, and listening with openness and curiosity. Imagine sitting at a cafe and just putting your phone to the side and just giving your partner your undivided attention, truly engaging in the conversation as if it's the most important thing at that moment. Now, this might turn your partner off, but I think if you do this with tenderness and care and intrigue and curiosity, I think it'll come off as very attractive. This presence can make your partner feel valued and heard. The second principle is to open up. Now, I did say that effective communication is both a speaker and a listener, but there's also another dynamic going on. There's also another speaker and another listener in the minds of the couple. Now, these are thoughts or feelings that kind of pop up during a conversation. And so as your partner's talking, you're also having another speaker in your head that's having all sorts of thoughts. And so the second principle refers to opening up, meaning you're acknowledging and making room from all those thoughts, those feelings that are coming and going. It's kind of like clouds that kind of go in the sky and they kind of come from one side and they kind of go and they kind of just drift off. And our thoughts and feelings are a lot like that. So if you're having trouble getting stuck in those, just remember to open up and allow room to have those difficult thoughts and feelings appear. The third principle is to connect with your values. Speak with kindness, fairness, and consideration. Treat your partner as a friend, not a foe. Focus on making the relationship work for both of you. Usually behind some hurt is a value. There's something that you care about, and that's why you're getting so emotional about it. So think about your values and think of them as a compass that's guiding your behavior in every interaction, ensuring you act in ways that reflect who you truly want to be in your relationship. Number 4 is adjust your face, voice, and posture. I remember an old story of a child who was made to sit down for timeout for an extended period of time. And so he says to his mother, "I may be sitting on the outside, but I'm standing up on the inside." And I think in a lot of ways, we have to make that adjustment in our communication. Sometimes our voice or our body language is just not communicating. It's not aligning with what we're meaning. So ensure your nonverbal cues align with your words. Adopt a calm tone, soften your face, and maintain an open posture. Number 5, set the stage. So choose an appropriate time and place for difficult conversations. We always want to have the conversation right now when I feel it, but just remember, you're in your emotional mind then, and that's not always the one that you want to take the reins for a serious conversation. So choose a time and a place for that communication to take place. So after the kids are in bed, have that discussion. Or better yet, don't wait till right before you go to bed. Try to make some other time in your schedule for that conversation to take place. Number 6, first aim to understand. Now, we always want to be understood first, but we have that backwards. We need to understand our partner first, then we can expect to be understood. So listen mindfully to understand your partner's perspective before sharing your own. This one tip will change the dynamic in your relationship. Use reflective listening to ensure that you comprehend their feelings and thoughts accurately, not as you think them to be. This approach can be likened to putting yourself in your partner's shoes, seeing the world through their eyes before you respond. And the 7th principle is to choose your words wisely. Use I statements to express your feelings and needs without blaming or criticizing your partner. Be clear, honest, and specific. For instance, saying, I feel upset when the dishes aren't done because it makes me feel unappreciated. It's more constructive than you never do the dishes. Conflicts are inevitable in a relationship, but how you handle them can make all the difference. ACT provides tools to navigate conflicts effectively without damaging your relationship. So this is done through the power of assertiveness. Now, what is assertiveness and what difference does it make in a relationship? If communication were on a spectrum with 2 extremes, we'd have passivity over here on the right side and aggressiveness on the left side. And then we would have assertiveness would be this middle path. And this middle path is the way forward when your communication is at an impasse. So let's look at assertiveness. First, assertiveness involves standing up for your rights while respecting your partner's rights. It is a balance between being passive and being aggressive. Think of it as walking a tightrope, where you need to maintain your balance to move forward without falling into passivity or aggressiveness. So how does this work? Just be more confident and say what you feel respectively? Well, usually there's 2 reasons you need assertiveness, either to make a request or to decline a request. So let's look at each one briefly. When making a request, use a 3-part assertiveness statement to express your feelings and describe your partner's behavior, and then make a clear request. For example, I feel frustrated when the house is messy. I'd prefer if we clean up together every evening. Follow this outline. I feel, when, and make a request. It's that simple. Often one of these is missing, and it just sounds like you're complaining or criticizing to your partner. If you include all 3, it'll sound like you're making a request, not a demand, and then your partner can accept or decline. So making a request is one reason you need assertiveness. Let's look at decline. Saying no is something as easy as saying no, but we often feel like that's not enough for our partner, so we need to justify no so that they'll accept our no. And this is where we get in trouble with our communication, isn't it? We say no, and then we add some reasons that aren't the real reasons because we don't want to get into all of that, do we? To say no with assertiveness looks a lot like gentle honesty. I'm not able to attend tonight's game due to a schedule conflict. There's no lie there, and people accept this gentle honesty. For your partner, you'll need to add a little more to consider their feelings, but it works the same way. So picture yourself setting a boundary with a gentle yet a firm voice, ensuring your needs are met without disregarding your partner's feelings. So you can say something like, I cannot attend this game night event due to a schedule conflict, and this is disappointing since you were so excited to beat our friends and Settlers of Catan. Now, the wording doesn't have to be perfect here. Just make sure the decline is clear and your partner's feelings are considered. Russ Harris says, to decline a request assertively, be direct, firm, and honest, while also being fair and considerate. And I think that's great advice. Negotiation involves finding mutually beneficial solutions that satisfy each partner and usually involve a willingness to compromise. Now, the Gottman Institute has found that 69% of couples' conflicts are perpetual, with around 20% of those being gridlock, meaning 69% of your problems in your relationship are going to continue to come back up. They're the same theme, just a different night. And there's about 20% of those problems that you're discussing that are gridlock, meaning you're not going to agree and there's not going to be much compromise. So that leaves about 49% of these perpetual problems as solvable. So how do we go about getting to solutions? Negotiation. So let's look at the art of negotiation. There's 3 things that are outlined here by Russ Harris. First is fair and considerate negotiation. When couples fight with the intention to win, well, guess what? That means one partner will be the loser. And who really wins when one partner loses? Really, no one wins. Negotiation should be win-win solutions that both partners give up something and also gain something. Negotiation should be fair and considerate, focusing on both partners' rights, needs, and feelings. The second thing he mentions is setting the stage. And this should be obvious, but it's not so obvious when we're in our emotions. We need to agree on a specific time to discuss important issues, ensuring both partners are prepared and in a good state of mind. So Wednesday at noon, we're going to talk about our budget. Yay. And then the third thing is to understand outcomes. So consider the outcomes you're hoping for before entering the negotiation. What is it that you want to get out of this? Think about what you want for yourself, your partner, and the relationship. The more perspective you can get on this, the better the outcome. Visualize the ideal resolution and then work towards it together. To recap, today we focused on enhancing your communication skills and effectively resolving conflict. By practicing active listening, assertive communication, and negotiating win-win solutions, you can strengthen your relationship and navigate conflicts with grace. In our next episode, we'll explore repairing and enriching your relationship using ACT principles. Stay tuned and remember to subscribe, like, and comment with any questions or thoughts that you have. Remember, your journey towards a more purposeful and mindful life begins with a single click.